morning, everybody. This is Lindy. Oh, I forgot to put on makeup. Well, I never remember anyway till I go to work. So, I really do believe that my brain is wired incorrectly because my girlfriends thought I was nuts. Even in the 60s, they thought I was totally crazy when I joined the service. And I lived with 7 girls at one time, only for a month or two, on the beach. Playland we were on the third floor. We had plate glass windows that faced the beach, and the cliff house was right up the hill, and Playland was right beside us. It was fabulous, and it was fun. And we all worked at the USO. We all met through the USO. We all decided to room together. But these girls thought I was just totally nuts. I have to tell you, that's the truth. And my stories are so unbelievable, and they're the truth. It's just the way it was. That's My brain is not the same as everybody else's, I don't think. But this story is a very serious story. Probably the only one I'll tell about my marriage, other than the marijuana one, before I had my son. Um, and then I will skip on to after marriage. But my son was born when I was almost 24, just before my 24th birthday. And he was like 6 weeks old, and he had really severe ear problems. And he would just scream and scream and scream because his ears would get plugged up. And then they would try to put tubes in them and stuff like that. So I was constantly taking him to the doctor. When he was 6 weeks old, I took him to the doctor. I had a doctor's appointment. I knew his ears were plugged up again, and he was very ill. He was just very ill. And I had him in the car seat. I had a station wagon, four-door station wagon, old 1956 station wagon. It had the wood on it, and not fully wood and wine colored. And I had him in the back seat in a car seat, and I was in the front seat. And I parked at the doctor's office, and I was in the parking lot. This is 1971, guys. 1971. I was in the parking lot, and I turned around to get my son out of the car seat. And as I did, some man, my back was turned to the window, said, do you have any money? Can you give me some money? And I barely even turned around, and I said, no, I don't have any money. I just didn't have, I had $5, okay? That's what I had on me. And, so the next thing I know, I have a piece of nettle piercing my neck, at my neck, in the back. And he said, give me your purse. Well, I left my son in his car seat. And, of course, it was robbery. Or I thought it was. And I said, no, I'm not going to give you my purse. I'm still not thinking I'm in danger. I knew this metal thing was at my neck. I didn't know for sure what it was. I could feel it. As I'm turning around, I see it's a screwdriver so long. It's like 12 inches long. And I'm not realizing the danger I'm in. You honestly don't realize for a few seconds you're in danger. So he said, give me your purse. So I'm seeing this, I'm going, okay, I'm just going to give you my purse. And he found the $5 in it. And he goes, you lied. Something to that effect. I can't remember all the words he said to me. But I do remember him reaching around, and I had unlocked the doors to get my son out. And he had the thing in his left hand. He opened the door and got in. The next thing I knew, he had it against my son's neck. And he said, now you're going to drive. And I said, no, I'm not. And I'm a typical female. I got overly excited, emotional. And I said, don't hurt my son. And he said, I want you to drive. I said, I'm not going to drive. I want you to allow me to let my son, he's very ill, I will put him in the grass in front of the doctor's office. And then I'll drive you wherever you want to go. But I am not going to drive you anywhere. Now, I'm thinking maybe help will come, someone will see what's happening, and of course, no one did. And it took him about 20 minutes to convince me to drive. We sat there for a long time. And he finally said, Look, I promise, don't ask me why I believed it. I guess because, hope is always there. I won't hurt your son. And by this time, he's now taken the screwdriver to my neck. So drive. So I knew he wasn't going to let me let my son out. So I started to drive. I drove all over town. I drove wherever he told me to. But while I'm driving, honestly, I was getting angry. My background, again, I'm going to go to my background. I hate people doing anything to me that I don't want done. It's called freedom. And I'm sitting there, I'm going, what are my options? This is my brain. What are my options? I have none. I only have one option left, and that's to choose the place and the time I die. And I truly believed he was going to kill me and my son. And whether he was or not, or would have, I don't know. But he's taking me out of town. At first, we drove about 30 minutes inside town, different streets, and then I think he thought I was going to get confused and he would get out of the car. But I knew my town. I'd lived there 4 years, and I knew the roads. And he was taking me out of town to a wooded area. I knew at the end of this freeway was some woods and stuff. So there's a 4-way stop there. And I decided that I was ready to die. And my son could die too. It was better than watching my son being tortured to death or me being buried in the woods and nobody ever knowing what was going to happen to me. Now, this is all going through my brain. And by this time, I've spent like an hour with this man. And other things are happening in the car. And I'm angry. I'm angry. How dare him take my freedom away from me? How dare him take my options away from me? I'm gonna use the one option I have. I'm gonna die. Right here, right now. And that's the end of it. So as we pulled up to the stoplight, or the stop signs, I can't remember whether it was light, I think it was a 4-way light, I turned the engine off very quickly because he had my son and the thing was at my son's neck and he was telling me where to go. It was just between me and my son and constant. And I turned the engine off and I had the windows open and I threw those keys out the window. And I said, you get the F out of my car or kill me. I'm not moving. And he called me a couple names, and he got out of my car, and he walked away. I immediately jumped out, got my keys. Now, I've created a mess here at this 4-way stop. I got my keys, got back in the car, and drove back to the doctor's office. And by the time I get to the doctor's office, I'm hysterical. And I'm screaming, call 911, get the police, blah, 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 the whole thing. And they wanted to treat my son because he was screaming and he was in a lot of pain, but I wouldn't let them touch him. I'm not sure where my mind was, but I didn't trust anybody. You'll have to treat him with me holding him. No, we can't treat. No, you have to treat. The doctors could not get my son away from me. And they couldn't treat him. And my baby's crying, and I'm crying, and I'm trying to explain what's going on. And it was a very short time frame when the police showed up, but a highway patrolman, for some reason, I think because where it happened was on the highway, showed up. Big burly guy. I don't remember his face. I remember he was huge. And everybody was trying to talk to me. I wouldn't talk to them. I said, treat my son, but I wouldn't give my son up. I was just a mess. I was a mess. And the guy comes in, and I'm sitting in the doctor's office. Doctors don't know what to do with me. They can't calm me down. And he's got this really deep voice, and he starts talking to me. He goes, do you trust the police? Yeah. Would you trust me if you gave me your baby? Would you trust me to make sure your baby's okay? He was the only person in that whole place that I trusted to give my baby to. He calmed me way down, talking to me the whole time as he's taking my son, and he's handing my son to the doctor, and he says, I'll be back, but I'm going to watch your son for you. And he did. My son was treated. The cops took my information, etc., etc., etc. A couple weeks later, they never caught him, but a couple of weeks later, a guy with the same description did kidnap another woman and did rape her in the woods, whatever. He didn't kill her, but they never caught him. This is 1971, and it was a rude awakening call for me. I think I matured 30 years in those moments and realized, well, I'd already realized how short life was, but I really realized how short life was and how dangerous it was in that time frame. So always be aware of where you're at. Always be careful, because you never know what's going to happen to you. This is my most serious one, because I didn't have many incidents after this. I did, but nothing like this. And there were newspaper articles, and my son, I never told him his whole life, and his grandmother had saved the newspaper articles and gave them to him. And he started talking to me about it. This was 10 years ago. He was in his 30s or 40s, and we had a discussion, but I never talk about it. So you have a great day. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Camo.